Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, hey guys, this is Marc Goldberg from Marc Vlogs Watches, and today we are going to review a watch that you are just not going to believe that I own. Mon Dieu, it is a Cartier. Do I seem to you like a Cartier guy? Well, we're going to talk about that in just a moment, but before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video, I would like to remind you, please subscribe to my video. It is so much more fun if I can do this with you, and I've got lots more zany watch reviews and rants to come, so please subscribe. If you've been with me for a long time, thank you for being with me. And now, the quick fist watch check. And today I am wearing, not the Cartier, I am wearing an Omega Seamaster, 42 millimeters, extremely well developed in-house movement, and it is for sale. So you can contact me through my email address in the description if you would like to talk about this Omega. You know what? I don't know. I might even keep it. I'm a little unsure. Like, look, mesmerizing dial. But I digress. I have been seduced by the mesmerizing dial. Let's talk about the Cartier. Okay, before we talk about the Cartier, you are lucky today because we are going to do a second fist watch check. And here this one is. And now I have switched over to this magnificent, interesting, fashionable, manly, but yet still Cartier. Le Cartier de matin est sur la table. Hey, that's right. I took high school French and I still forget everything I knew back then. Now, before we go any further, I've got a gentleman to thank, a friend of the channel, a friend of mine, your friend and mine, Bruce Williams. Now, I've known Bruce for quite a while. I've been to his home, I've met his family, and let me tell you what, this is a peach of a guy. And out of the blue, he called me up and he said, hey, I've got a watch that would be a little bit interesting for you to review on your channel. How about I just pop it over there? And with no further ado, Bruce Williams just sends me this Cartier. So I just want to thank you, Bruce. You're quite a gentleman. I'm going to put a link to Bruce's channel in the description of this video. You should check him out. Chances are you know him already, but if you don't, here's your opportunity. Now, Bruce, we're going to go in on a macro level. I always threaten to steal that language from him, except for I don't have a macro lens. So all I'm going to do is hold this very, very close to my iPhone. And this is the Bruce Williams-esque going in on the macro level. So guys, this is a very different watch than what I would have expected it to be. So just let's knock out a couple of quick specs and then we'll talk about some pros and cons. But hey, why don't we move this over to the high-tech examination laboratory so we can turn the camera around and I can walk you through the various features of the Cartier Santos 100 XL. It's fashionable, but look at the size of it. It's a beast. All right, let's go take a look. Okay, fellas, before we get much further involved in the Cartier Santos XL 100, I would like to talk about some of the specs so that you can get an idea of the size of this chunky monkey. First of all, it weighs in at 212 grams, which is almost the same as my James Cameron when it is on its metal bracelet. And that is a big, huge, thick, giant, nearly unwearable watch. I say nearly unwearable because it's top heavy and it's just uncomfortable. And I always thought it was the weight of that watch which made it unsustainable, but in reality it has a lot to do with the configuration. So if we look at the case here, you will see how it is curved and it is conformed in such a way as it is going to wrap the wrist. And so oddly, even though this is a ridiculously heavy watch, it's quite comfortable. Now, I'm pulling out the plastic calipers. I want to do this right on camera because, Bruce, I want you to know that I'm not using the metal calipers on your watch. I only do those on mine. So here we are. In terms of the width of the thing, it's not as wide as it looks. I mean, it's deceptive. It's only 38.5 wide. Now, if we are going to go lug to lug, that is a much heftier 50, let's call it 51 lug to lug. But actually, I don't even think that's a completely accurate measurement because it seems to me that it protrudes due to the configuration of this bracelet a little further out. So when we measure that, It's much more of a whopping 55.5 from where the bracelet drapes. Yeah, so it's big. In terms of thickness, it feels thick, but due to the curvature, that has a lot to do with the feeling of the thing. Note the nice, I believe, synthetic jewel right in the crown, which we're going to talk about this crown further in a second. But let's go ahead and measure this guy for thickness. And surprise, it's not that thick. So the Cartier is really, I think, this particular model anyway, is extremely deceptive. It is very heavy, I think, in large part due to this massive bracelet. Butterfly clasp, terribly secure. The only thing that I actually kind of don't like about the clasp is that you can see this has a flange and this has a recession, so you do have to remember to close this one first, that one second. I'd also like to make note of these links. They are not high polished, they are a satin finish, but they are not profoundly matted in the same way that, let's say, a Rolex tool watch would be. So there's much more of a satisfying, shiny glow to these links without it being in your face and high polished in the same way that this bezel is high polished, and then you can see the contrast there, little glints of light coming off of there. So the bracelet, I think, is actually quite pretty. I like it much more than I would have thought of. You know, on balance, actually, although this is not exactly my style of watch, it's chunky. They have managed to put masculinity on top of fashion, which is something that I find respectable and interesting. So I do like the configuration of this bracelet. It is secured with screws, and it is one link all the way across. It's just very fashionable looking. Now, it also combines a certain industrial look along with its sort of high fashion sense. And I say that because it's got all these exposed screws. Now, something that does bother me with my particular brand of OCD is how these screws are all willy-nilly. You know, they don't line up at all. That's a little Hublot-esque. I'm much more in favor of the Audemars Piguet method, the Audemars Piguet method, where on the Royal Oak, all the screws line up. And these guys are willy-nilly, and the same is true of the screws on the bezel. And, you know, I gotta say, in the immortal words of Miss Coco Peru, that bothers me. Believe it or not, this has a water depth rating to 100 meters, which I think is absolutely incredible for a fashionable Cartier watch, particularly given this crown. Now, the crown is that octagonal? I think it's octagonal, guys. I'm not going to stop and count sides, but I believe it's an octagon. And here's the curious thing. You see it spinning here. It's not screw down. It's just push down. So the fact that this has 100 meters of water resistance with a push-in crown, it means there's gaskets in there, but you know, if I owned this watch, I would not put it in water. That's just me. Now, interestingly, when Bruce acquired this watch, he had it pressure tested, and it successfully pressure tested to 100 meters. So it's safe, but just something in me says, don't do it, Bruce, don't do it. Don't take a bath with this thing. Bruce, I watch your videos. I see you kayaking. I see you doing all kinds of crazy things. Bruce and I visited a camel farm together. So I know the man is adventurous, but Bruce, I think this is something that you wear to, you know, like a wedding. I wouldn't wear this one kayaking if I were you. The case back is quite interesting. It's deeply engraved. And behind that case back is a base ETA movement. And that is another thing that bothers me. It's not an in-house movement, and according to the information that I have been able to read, that ETA movement is not even highly modified or engraved or decorated or anything. So what you have here is the look of Cartier, and it's kind of a reasonable watch. It's in the, I don't know, I want to say it's in the $5,000 range on the used market, which I think is a good deal given the heft, the brand recognition, and but it's not my style. Okay, boy, is that a secure clasp. It's not my style. I'm not even 100% sure it's Bruce's. I think time will tell there. But you have to admit, in terms of brand recognition to the general public, maybe not to the watch collector specifically, but to the general public, Cartier ranks right up there with Rolex in terms of name recognition. So there's something to be said for that. And here we see the classic configuration of the Romans. This is an Art Deco style that goes all the way back into the late 20s and 30s. I'll tell you something, guys. This is not the kind of watch that, let's put it on. This is not the kind of watch that I'm going to buy. I'm not 100% sure it's the kind of watch that Bruce is going to forever keep in his collection. But you know, it's not necessarily ugly either. So, surprisingly, I like it. But, and it's incredibly comfortable for the size of it. Now remember, its specs. Frankly, its lug to lug is fairly large, but its width is not. Its weight is extreme, but look how it hugs the wrist. So guys, I have a mixed reaction to this Cartier. I have to say, I like it more than I should. I like it more than is probably good for me. If I wanted a formal watch to go to weddings and something in, I would still want it to be rugged. I would still want it to scream, I'm a manly watch collector. Ironic, but true. So that's why I would probably not want to strap on a Cellini. For the money, I like this. Now, before you guys go crazy in the comments telling me how awful it is because you are a bunch of snobs, I'd like to thank Bruce for lending me your watch. I'm not sure you're going to keep it, Bruce. Let us know how you feel about that. And at the end of the day, what do you guys think about Cartier as a brand? I want to thank you all for being with me. This is Marc Goldberg, peacing out. Cartier, mon ami. La plume de matin est sur la table. Où est Jean? Avec Sylvie, à la piscine. Je voudrais verre à Paris. Mais oui, not in my car, you don't. Hasta la vista, baby.